She flew in on fumes, played through a rolled ankle, and made an entire country stop breathing every time she served. And what happened next in Toronto is the part nobody saw coming. Because 2 weeks ago, almost nobody outside the tennis world could have picked Alex Eala out of a lineup. Tonight, there's a stadium in Canada that sounds like Manila, a food stall that changed its menu because of her, and a Swiss Olympic champion who had to survive her own personal war just to get the chance to stop her. Only one of them was walking away happy. Stick around, because the ending of this story is not the one you're expecting. Before we get into it, if you love underdog sports stories that actually happened, hit subscribe now, because this channel breaks down moments like this one every single week. Let's set the scene, because you need to understand exactly how loaded this 2 weeks was before we get to Toronto. Alexandra Eala was born in Quezon City on May 23, 2005. She grew up hitting balls on a basketball court long before she ever set foot on a real tennis court, and for most of her career she was known as a name insiders whispered about, a former junior US Open champion with real talent but no senior title to her name. She had heartbreak, too. In 2024, she held 4 championship points in a WTA final and still lost in a third-set tiebreak. That kind of loss follows a player. Then came the first week of August 2026, and everything changed. At the Mubadala DC Open in Washington, a WTA 500 event stacked with talent, Eala walked into a draw that included Jessica Pegula, Naomi Osaka, Venus Williams, Madison Keys, Elena Rybakina, and the defending champion Leylah Fernandez. She opened by rallying from a set and a breakdown to beat Olympic gold medalist Zheng Qinwen. Then she dethroned defending champion Leylah Fernandez, battling back from a 5-1 deficit in the second set to do it. She swept past world number 10 Elena Rybakina in the quarterfinal. Then, in the semifinal, she dispatched 4-time Grand Slam champion Naomi Osaka. That set up a final against top seed Jessica Pegula, ranked world number 3. Eala dropped the first set. Then a violent Washington storm rolled in and suspended play with Pegula still up a break in the second. When the players came back out, something had shifted. Eala tore through the rest of the match, winning 12 of the last 13 games to close it out 4-6, 6-4, 6-0. It was the first WTA Tour-level singles title in Philippine tennis history, ever. Tournament director Mark Ein later said that before Eala had even played her opening match, more than 80% of every question his ticketing office received was about her, in a draw that included Pegula, Osaka, and Venus Williams. That's the level of gravity we're talking about. And Eala did not get to rest. Less than 24 hours after lifting that trophy, she was on a plane to Toronto for the National Bank Open, a WTA 1000 event, one tier above what she'd just won, against an even deeper field. She should have been running on empty. Instead, she walked out at Sobeys Stadium and beat American Alicia Parks 6-1, 4-6, 6-2 in front of a crowd that, by multiple local reports, was overwhelmingly Filipino. After the win, Eala grabbed the microphone and spoke directly to the stands in Tagalog. Kamusta Toronto? Toronto? Wave your flags. Let me see them. The response was instant. Hundreds of Philippine flags went up across the arena at once. Here's the thing about the Filipino tennis fanbase that's been quietly building around Eala for 2 years now. It doesn't behave like a normal sports crowd. It follows her. To Melbourne, where thousands lined up just to watch her practice. To Miami. To Indian Wells, where American doubles player Desiree Crouchick once admitted her own mother nearly skipped watching her play just to go watch Eala instead. In Toronto, that fanbase turned Sobeys Stadium into what one report called a full house that was, in the writer's words, majority, if not entirely, Filipino. But Eala's body was starting to send warning signs. In the third round, she faced American Katie McNally, who had just knocked out the reigning Wimbledon champion 2 rounds earlier. Midway through the second set, Eala rolled her right ankle. She called for a medical timeout, had it taped on court, and kept playing, visibly favoring it for the rest of the match. McNally, sensing an opening, fought back to force a third set. Eala steadied herself, broke early in the decider, and closed it out 6-3, 5-7, 6-4 in 2 hours and 39 minutes. "I'm okay. I think I survived that one," Eala said afterward. It was so tough. That win pushed her winning streak to 7 matches across 2 tournaments and 2 countries. 7 wins, 1 ankle held together with tape, and 1 final wall left standing between her and a maiden WTA 1000 quarterfinal. That wall's name was Belinda Bencic. And here's where the story gets complicated, because Bencic was fighting her own war at the exact same time. The Swiss former Olympic champion, she won gold at the Tokyo Games, had breezed through her opening matches in Toronto, including a routine 6-3, 6-1 win over Sloane Stephens. Then, in the third round, she ran into American Taylor Townsend, and what followed was one of the most brutal matches of the entire tournament. Bencic saved 3 set points just to survive the first set, only to lose it in a tiebreak anyway. She clawed the second set back in another tiebreak. The match stretched to 3 hours and 26 minutes before Bencic finally closed it out 6-7, 7-6, 6-4. Cameras caught more than just the tennis. During a changeover, with the match still hanging in the balance, Bencic turned on her own player's box, which includes her husband and fitness coach, Martin Hromkovic, and snapped on camera for the whole stadium to hear, "Can you man up and be loud? You, yes, shut up." It wasn't personal cruelty. It was a released valve, a competitor demanding more energy from the people in her corner during the fight of her tournament. She got it. She survived. And less than 2 days later, with barely any recovery time, she had to walk back out onto that same court to face Eala, with an entire stadium against her. So here's the moment everyone had been building toward. Arrested, red-hot Eala carrying a 7-match win streak, a nation's flags in the stands, and momentum nobody in the draw had been able to slow down, against a battered, exhausted Bencic who had survived a 3.5-hour war just 2 nights earlier. On paper, in the emotion of the moment, it felt like Eala's night. It wasn't. Bencic came out and played some of the cleanest, most controlled tennis of the entire tournament. She broke Eala in the 9th game of the first set to close it out 6-4. Then, in the second set, something happened that nobody in that building expected. Bencic simply took over. She won every single game. Final score, 6-4, 6-0, in 1 hour and 13 minutes. Eala's 7-match winning streak, the one that had carried her from Washington all the way through Toronto, was over. Bencic later said she was aware of exactly whose crowd she was playing in front of. "I know most of you were cheering for Alex," she told the stadium afterward. "But it was very nice for me to play in front of you all. Thank you so much for the great crowd." And Eala, even in defeat, didn't let the moment sour. "Tough one today. She put me in some really tough situations," she said. "But overall, a really good week. I'm super happy with the run I've had, and I'm going to try to recover and come back out hot. Because here's what the scoreline doesn't tell you. Over those 2 weeks, Eala beat an Olympic champion, a Grand Slam champion, a former world number 3, and the defending champion of a WTA 500 event, on her way to the first WTA Tour singles title in Philippine tennis history. She did it while carrying a taped-up ankle through the back half of a second tournament, on almost no rest, against one of the deepest fields on tour. She climbed to a new career-high ranking of world number 20. And along the way, she'd already scored one of the biggest wins of her career earlier in the season 2. Back in June at the Berlin Open, she'd upset world number 2 Elena Rybakina in straight sets, avenging an earlier loss to her on clay. That loss to Bencic wasn't the end of a fairy tale. It was the moment a fairy tale ran into a genuinely great player having a career year of her own. Bencic came back from maternity leave in 2025 ranked outside the top 400 and clawed her way into the top 15 through pure will. 2 athletes, 2 remarkable comeback stories, colliding on the same night, and only one could win. Bencic moved on to face world number 4 Coco Gauff in the quarterfinals. And Eala moved on too toward recovery, toward whatever comes next in a season that has already rewritten what people thought was possible for tennis in the Philippines. Because here's the real headline, buried underneath one lopsided scoreline. A 21-year-old who grew up hitting balls on a basketball court in Quezon City just won her first tour-level title, cracked the top 20 in the world, and turned a Canadian tennis stadium into something that sounded, by every account on the ground, like home. The loss to Bencic stings. It's supposed to. But it's a single data point in a season that has included wins over an Olympic champion, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist, and a former world number 2. If you were waiting for the moment women's tennis stopped being able to ignore the Philippines, this was it. Not because of one match she lost, but because of everything that had to happen for that match to matter this much in the first place. If the story pulled you in, there are more like it every week on this channel. Subscribe and don't miss what Eala does next.